Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, The Biblical Momalog. If you're new here, this is the place where we get together and talk about living for Jesus through motherhood. And today I'm coming to you from my kitchen where I am making a pot of corn dogs. I'm making a pot of homemade chili dog sauce, and I will link that down below. And cutting up some veggies and just doing kind of a casual, easy dinner. We're Ohio State fans, so today was game day. And today was also kind of a special day for my son, who is a type 1 diabetic. We had a dash for camp. He goes to a camp every summer that is for kids who have type 1 diabetes, or really any kind of diabetes, I guess. And he has benefited from that camp since he was 10 years old. So today they did a 5K run walk race to raise support, raise funds, so that they can keep bringing great things and events and different things for these kids each summer. So my son Luke and my older son Andy and I all participated in that, and I actually ran the whole thing today, which feels like a huge milestone for me because I haven't run in several years. So I'll tell you a little story about that. Back in 2015, my son Luke, who is a twin, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when he was 6. His twin brother Carter does not have it. He's fine. He doesn't have any of those kind of medical conditions. So Lucas was diagnosed, and then in 2016, my husband and I, who were overweight and out of shape, decided that we needed to get in shape, lose some weight. We needed to be healthy so we could take care of our boys. So we started watching what we ate, counting our calories, exercising, all the things that you do. My husband ended up losing 100 pounds. I will put a picture here. And I lost 35, which was significant for me. It took me a while, but my husband started shedding weight as soon as he started moving and changing his diet, and he ended up getting up to 100. And then, as time went on, we were running, we were walking, we were doing all the things, and then we kind of kept up the habit until COVID hit, right? And COVID hit, and it just kind of threw a wrench into everything. We were helping a neighbor who lived across the street who had cancer and was caring for her mentally handicapped brother at the same time, who lived with her. So we were doing that, raising our boys, doing the lockdowns and dealing with all that, doing the homeschool, and we just got out of shape. We stopped running, we stopped watching our diets. And then a couple months ago, my husband went to a doctor's visit just to do like a well check, and some of his numbers were a little off. They weren't terrible, but she's like, you probably should just, eat less carbs and, try to exercise. And, in the midst of that, he had back surgery. So, he has been doing a low carb, I would say keto type diet, and no sugar, and he's lost almost 30 pounds. I think he's at like 28 or 29 now, and I was like, okay, I got to start walking again. So I started walking again and just trying to get back in that habit. And today was just a great motivator for me to get back out there and just keep moving. I was able to run. It was slow. I mean, my pace was like 12 something. It was crazy slow, but I just kept moving. And I kept thinking, like, I was praying the whole time. Like, if you don't run and you try to go out and run, I know you're with me, where you're just having to pray, like, God, help me get through this. Help me, Lord. And those were the prayers I was praying. But as I was praying, I kept thinking about Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, where he talks about running the race. And I was thinking, these kids that have type 1 diabetes, or adults, or anyone, if you have type 1 diabetes, like, much respect to you, and, much love, because you go through a lot to take care of yourself. And there's just so many little hurdles and obstacles that you have to go through every day that the rest of us don't. So I was thinking about these kids that we were running for and how they don't, they don't get a break. They don't get a vacation from it. They don't get to retire, right? Like, diabetes is there unless the Lord heals them. And I was thinking about that, like with our lives, why do we have this mindset that when I get to the end of my work life, I get to retire, which, that sounds amazing to me. I mean, I've always been a working mom. So yeah, I would love to retire, but we're believers, right? We don't retire. Like, we never retire from the job that Jesus has called us to do. And that's to share the gospel and, just spread that good news around the world. That's our main job as believers, is to spread the gospel and, be kind and do these things that share who he is, so that our actions point to him. So people say, I might want to know more about this Jesus that, you're talking about because you've been so nice to me, or whatever it is that you're doing in your life. And it just, like, as I was running, and I was like, okay, Lord, I see the finish. Like, just help me to be able to run this whole thing. Help me to be able to finish. And I was just thinking, like, kind of like, that's really selfish of me to pray that way, right? Like, am I doing that in my life? Do I want to finish well in my life? Do you want to finish well in your life? Are you like living for the next, like, finish line? Are you like, okay, in a month I get to go on vacation and then everything will be great? Or if I get that new job or that promotion, then I've reached the top, or I've reached the finish line. Once these kids are out of this house, it's all gonna get better, right? Like, these are the ways that we think. And it's like, I was like, Lord, forgive me, because this is not what life's about. Like, it's not it at all. And yes, I did need the help today, and thank you, Jesus, he did help me. And so I had to give him praise when I was done with that race. It felt so good to be able to go out and run just a 3.1 5K race. It's been years since I've done that. It motivated me to get those shoes on and go running more often, and just keep myself in the habit. But on the flip side of that, there's this life that I have to live and that you have to live. And, are we thinking about, like, as moms, like, let me just get this kid through this sports season. Let me just get this kid through this grade. He's having a hard time this year. I know that struggle. I go through that struggle too, but it's about so much more than that. So I just want to encourage you guys today to think about your life and think about your race. How are you running your race? Are you running your race for Jesus, or are you running your race just to get through the next thing? When we look at that bigger picture, it puts everything into perspective. So I just want to encourage you today to read 1 Corinthians chapter 9. I'm going to read that for you here in just a minute, and we'll end on that. But I just want to encourage you, Mom, like, you've got this. Look at the way your kids are growing and the things that you're pouring into their lives as it's for the long haul, right? Like, those long days and nights and sleepless nights and, times where they get sick, and all the things that you're doing as a mom, you're doing it. It's your race, you're running your race, and it's definitely not a sprint, right? Sometimes there's sprints in there. I will give you that. Like, we have some sprints in there too, but I just want to encourage you to just ask the Lord, how am I running my race? And think about, like, what can you do to have that long-term perspective, right? Because this is not our home. This is our temporary home. So I just want to encourage you today that you can do it. Keep running the race. Don't retire. There's no retirement for believers, right? And please don't give up, because there's always someone who will encourage you and lift you up. And that's just what I'm here today to do. Have a great day, friends. 1 Corinthians 9:24. Don't you know that the runners in a stadium all race, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way to win the prize. Now everyone who completes exercises self-control in everything. They do it to receive a perishable crown, but we an imperishable crown. So I do not run like the one who runs aimlessly, or box like one boxing, beating the air. Instead, I discipline my body and bring it under strict control, so that after preaching to others, I myself will not be disqualified.